Most years I usually just do a top 5 or a top 10 favorite games of the year, but this year I'm doing a tier list. So I have every single game I played this year for an extended period of time. Let's go ahead and rank them in this tier list. As Dusk Falls, I wish I liked a lot more. One of my favorite games ever is Telltale's The Walking Dead. The very original first season of that was fantastic. However, As Dusk Falls really didn't scratch that itch I was looking for. I just did not really like the characters or the overall narrative. It was an interesting game with some really fun ideas, and I do think it is a quality made game. I just unfortunately did not enjoy it or really enjoy my time with it. Next up, A Way Out. This one, again, I wish I liked it more. I think a lot of people are really big fans of this studio and the two-person multiplayer games they make, such as It Takes Two, which is a hugely well-recepted game. A Way Out as well is really well-recepted. People seem to really like this one. I enjoyed it. I definitely liked my time with it. I just think that there's other things I would have rather done with a multiplayer game, something like a Mario Kart or Smash Bros, some more arcadey kind of fun type of game than a narrative-structured one. Cluster Truck is one of the great examples of Game Pass. This is just a random game I downloaded, and turns out I absolutely love it. I played this game like every night for like an entire month. It was so much fun. It's so simple, so straightforward, so kind of dumb. You're just jumping on cars, but I absolutely loved it. It's definitely a weird A tier for me for sure. Danganronpa. Oh boy, there's a lot to unpack with this one, but it is a solid A tier, top of A tier so far. This is a weirdly nostalgic game, given I've only played it a couple months ago. I just think back to the style, the atmosphere, the characters of this entire game, and I love it. Honestly, I did not expect to like a game like this at all. It's the first visual novel type of game I've ever played. It made me really interested in the entire genre and franchise of Danganronpa, so much so that I actually went ahead and played Danganronpa 2, which I do think I like the original one a little bit more, but this one is essentially more of the same. If you like the first one, you're gonna love the second one, and I loved the second one, especially the ending, final 2 or so chapters. The stuff got crazy. Of course, no spoilers for either game, but very interesting games, very out there, very wacky, but at the same time, oddly a lot of fun, and I enjoyed them, like I said, oddly quite a lot. Deathloop is going to be our game that we go into the to be determined category, the one I've had at the bottom of the tier list here, because I played it for about 5 or 6 hours and I really wasn't enjoying it. However, I got to give it another chance because it got so many accolades and Game of the Year awards and nominations last year in 2021 when it came out, and I feel like I'm missing something here, so I definitely want to get back into it and give it another chance. But as of right now, I just have not really been liking the gameplay loop of the entire game. Just not really what I expected, what I was looking for. So as of right now, it is in the to be determined category, as we'll see. I'll give it another chance in 2023 and see if I really figure out what I'm missing out on this game. Donut County, though. This one is a game that I wish I liked a lot more as well. It just felt a little bit too simple and straightforward. Don't get me wrong. It's a quality game that I think there's a lot of charm and personality in. It's just a little bit too mindless at times and just kind of going through the motions for most levels, and sometimes I did get to the occasional challenge, but for the most part it was pretty straightforward and didn't really hook me in ways I wish it did. Doom is another one I think I had way too high expectations for. I expected to absolutely fall in love with this game given the super high praise this game gets. However, I played it and I thought it was okay. I enjoyed my time with it. Killing demons is obviously a lot of fun. However, it just didn't really hook me the way that I wanted it to. Didn't fall in love with the game. I didn't want to come back to playing it all the time. Sometimes I kind of force myself and remind myself that I was playing Doom, and that's not really the kind of feeling you should get whenever playing a video game. You want to play a game because it's fun, not just because you remember that you're playing it. So for that reason, it's in the B tier, but once again, it is a quality title, and there are some fantastic moments and feelings you get while playing this game. Especially the soundtrack just carries the entire thing to a new level. Dragon Quest XI, man, I want to put this in S tier so bad, but I'm not going to. We're actually going to put it in the to be determined category because I did not get to finish this game. It got taken off of Xbox Game Pass while I was in the middle of playing it. I'm just about to buy it. I stopped myself because I have a backlog already I want to get into, but I definitely got to finish this game about 50 or 65% of the way through, and it is fantastic. The world is magical, fun, fantasy environment with really cool characters, really straightforward yet fun story, fun world, great RPG mechanics. It's not too easy, not too complex. It's just a perfect blend of everything. Dragon Quest knows what they're doing, and this game is fantastic. Once again, this would be an S tier if I wanted to put it there, but I want to come back to it. I want to give this game its proper time to really cement itself into where it would be on my tier list. I'm assuming it would stay S tier. Maybe the latter half of the game doesn't really stick up to the first beginning portions of the game, so it might fall down a little bit. I don't know, but as of right now, I'm going to keep it on the to be determined. Next up, Elden Ring. You don't really need me to tell you too much about this game because Every single person is probably putting Elden Ring at their game of the year for 2022 because it is that good. It is a fantastic, once-in-a-lifetime, monumental game. It's just a perfect open world game. Every single inch of this entire world, there's something going on, something to discover. You always feel rewarded for checking around every single corner and rock, and at the same time, you can just run straight to the end of the game and fight the big bad guys and the major bosses, which are some of the best in the entire Souls franchise. This game is fantastic. One of my big complaints, though, I do want to say, is I feel like the narrative could have been presented a little bit better. I know From Software isn't big on showing a story in their games, but there's so much interesting characters and lore in this that I feel like there could have been a bit more of a through line throughout the entire game of what you're doing, who the characters are, what their motivations are, and everything like that. But at the same time, I did enjoy this game a ton. One of the best games I've ever played in my entire life, and you don't really need me to tell you that, but it's fantastic. Also, Dragon Lord Placidux is an underrated boss. This is one of my favorite boss fights in the entire Souls franchise. That thing is insanely cool. Fire Emblem Three Houses is just going to miss out on the S tier. This is going to be an A tier game because this game's narrative and characters and overall world of Fire Emblem Three Houses is fantastic. It is so interesting. All the characters are deep and complex and just really interesting to learn more about, which makes the actual gameplay feel more rewarding because the top-down tactical RPG style of Fire Emblem is done fantastically here. It is so much fun to go through and level up and train your characters, but I do have to say the systems can get a little bit too heavy-handed at some times. I was kind of over going back to the monastery time and time again. Got a little repetitive at some points, but overall the game here is insanely fantastic. The Gunk is one of those random games I decided to get and try out. It's gonna go in C tier. Yeah, it was okay. I didn't really like the characters, the story, but the gameplay had some interesting ideas. I just think they could have went a little bit further with those ideas, but at the same time, it was an interesting game that has a lot of promise with these developers. Maybe a sequel, maybe a different kind of direction for their games. I think it shows a lot of promise, but right now, not the biggest fan of it. Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pack is going to go solidly into the middle of the B tier. More Mario Kart 8 is always a good time. The new tracks, some great, some not as great, but overall just an excuse to come back and play more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a great excuse for me because this game is fantastic. Most of the tracks, like I said, are pretty solid. It's always just fun driving around, messing around, either with your friends or playing online, whatever you want to do. It's always a good time. Mario Kart 8 is fantastic. Modern Warfare 2, I'm not going to lie, is a little bit disappointing. It's going to go into the C tier for me. I really like the Modern Warfare that came out in 2018, so that's why I was actually pretty excited to try Modern Warfare 2, even though this is the second Modern Warfare 2. Yes, it's dumb, it's confusing, but I kind of expected more. The multiplayer maps were a little flat, definitely could have used like 5 or 10 more of them, and just overall the gameplay is kind of more Call of Duty, a little bit too repetitive at times, and just, it's okay. Naraka Bladepoint. Now this one's actually kind of fun, really surprisingly fun game. It's a battle royale that doesn't really use guns or anything like that. They're using these kind of ancient weapons and abilities, and it's a really interesting twist on the genre that I actually ended up liking quite a bit. I did fall off this game, and I really have no desire to go back to it, but the kind of month or so that I did play this game pretty heavily, I really did surprisingly enjoy it quite a lot. Overcooked 2, another one that I think is a really quality, well-made game. I'm going to put it right above A Way Out because it is a fun multiplayer game as well. However, it just didn't really hook me and my friends the way I kind of was hoping it would. Most of the time, once again, we will prefer to play something like a Mario Kart or a Smash Bros. Or a Mario Party over something like Overcooked 2, but don't get me wrong, this game is fantastic and there's a lot of quality here. Overwatch 2, this is a mixed one. I'm going to put it at the top of B tier because I gotta be honest, I think the gameplay of Overwatch 2 is genuinely better than Overwatch 1. I think the 5v5 format works better, some of the character changes and new character introductions actually feel really great. Kiriko, Sojourn, and Junker Queen are all really fun characters, and the new maps and modes are also pretty solid, so everything about the game is an improvement, except for the monetization and the bugs and the glitches and a lot of different tweaks they made that seem really redundant, and also at the same time, this is not a sequel. This is just an update to Overwatch 1. Really, it shouldn't even be here on this list because it's just an update. The multiplayer online campaign stuff is what I'm really excited for, and that's coming in 2023. So hopefully that stuff delivers and I can talk about it next year. But as of right now, I think the game is solid, but the monetization and cosmetics and stuff like that are so dumb, so overpriced. I'm never buying a skin again. That stuff is ridiculous and just really frustrating, but alas, I still think the gameplay is a little bit improved. Plague Tale Innocence really surprised me. I thought I would just like the gameplay, but at the end of the day, I liked the gameplay, the characters, and the story, and the entire world of Plague Tale. It was really interesting and took some twists that I definitely did not expect at all. It's a very interesting world, like I said, and the gameplay maybe was my least favorite factor of it. Just felt a little bit too repetitive at the end of the day. But once again, I did like the characters enough where I want to go back and play Requiem, which did come out somewhat recently. But for now, I'm going to take a little bit break on the franchise because the gameplay did get a little repetitive, like I said, but at the same time, it is a pretty solid game and beautiful game at that. Legends Arceus is going to be another S tier. I think this game is a huge, gigantic leap forward for the Pokemon franchise. The catching mechanics, the battle systems, the entire world and structure of the game is just so well done. Really fun narrative as well, learning about the lore of the Pokemon world, some really interesting twists and villains and scenarios, and learning about Arceus and the history of Sinnoh. All that stuff was really cool, and the big thing, like I said earlier, the catching mechanic made catching Pokemon genuinely fun, and I like this game quite a lot. My favorite Pokemon game of the year and of a very long time. Pokemon Scarlet, however, is not as great, but I still do enjoy it for what it is. It's going to be the top of B tier because Pokemon's just straight up fun. Pokemon is a fun franchise, and I do genuinely enjoy Pokemon Scarlet quite a lot. I'm actually going to upgrade it into the bottom of A tier because I do like this game. I think it has some very solid ideas and some fun moments, fun characters, really cool new Pokemon. Once again, though, I do have to say that the bugs and glitches and overall frame rate of the entire game is abysmal. It's embarrassing. It shouldn't be this bad, but it is. And on top of that, I think the entire structure could borrow some things from something like Dragon Quest XI and lean more into kind of a structured narrative adventure for the Pokemon franchise with individual towns you visit and characters and side quests and more of a structured kind of map instead of just a giant open map with Pokemon sprinkled throughout. I think I could learn some things from Dragon Quest XI, but at the same time, Scarlet is a different game, and it's actually pretty solid. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, more specifically Shining Pearl for me, I'm not a big fan of. I think this is the worst Pokemon has been in a very long time, and I'm happy Arceus and Scarlet are major improvements over it, but the balancing of Pokemon Shining Pearl is abysmal, it's bad, and it's frustrating to play. Not only because sometimes it's too easy, but sometimes it gets too hard, like the Elite Four. It's a very messy game. I'm not a big fan of it. I kind of think it's the worst of Pokemon and the worst it's been in a very long time. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania is going to be into my B tier. Something about this game feels a little bit off, but at the same time, it is the best of Super Monkey Ball ever. The best Monkey Ball games packaged into one, and mini games and everything like that. But something about this game, the way it controls, feels just slightly off, and it can be very frustrating at times. But regardless of that, it is still a very fun game and a really great package of Super Monkey Ball. Switch Sports is going to go top of C tier because bowling and tennis are fun. Everything else is okay. Not a big fan of the other sports, honestly, but bowling and tennis is always fun. I also think it's dumb you can't unlock costumes for your characters when playing in couch co-op multiplayer mode. You have to go online to do that because why would I go online to play Switch Sports? This is a couch co-op fun game to play with my friends, not online strangers. That's not nearly as fun. But regardless, I still think it's a solid game that I think gets overlooked a little bit too much, but it's still in the C tier, so it's not fantastic. Next, though, we have TMNT Shredder's Revenge. This one's actually going to go up here in A tier as well. This game is fantastic, super well-polished, well-designed game. My biggest complaint would be that it's a little bit too short, but everything that it's set out to be, it accomplishes. It's fun, it's stylish, it's cool, really entertaining game. I've loved the Ninja Turtle games, I love the classic arcade games, and this one as well. It's just a really great, well-made game all around. Tunic is going to go into my to be determined game list as well because I really am enjoying it. I'm about, 25% of the way through. It's going to be in the A or maybe B tier because of right now, I just can't really motivate myself to continuously pick up the controller and return to it time and time again. I think it's a really solid game. Don't get me wrong. I do think it is a very charming, well-made game, but like I said, for some reason, it's not hooking me the way I kind of wish it was, but I definitely want to force myself to get further into the game before I give it a fair rating because once again, I do think it is a quality, well-made game. I just want to get back into it and really get its hooks into me and see it to the end. Next up, though, we have Vampire Survivors. This is an instant S tier for me. This is one of my favorite games that's come out in a very long time. It is just so simple, so straightforward, and kind of just reminds the entire gaming industry that, hey, games are supposed to be fun. Instead of all this crazy RPG, deep mechanics, 100+ hours, just focus on making a fun game. And that is exactly what Vampire Survivors is. I love it. It's addicting. It's fun. It's repetitive, but in the best way possible. I'm a huge fan of this game. It's very simple and straightforward, but I love it to death. Finally, we have Windjammers 2. This is going to be an A tier for me, the bottom of A tier. I play this game almost religiously online in the ranked modes for like a month. I think this game is super overlooked, super fun, and just one of those rare kind of charming games you find every once in a while that I'm surprisingly a huge fan of, and I thought it was a ton of fun. Another really great couch co-op multiplayer game as well, and again, like I said, I was obsessed with the online ranked ladder. So there you go. That is going to be my list of every single game of 2022 that I played for a significant amount of time. The original version of this list had a lot of games of like would go into my to be determined or my C or D tiers. I got rid of that stuff and just focused on the main ones, and these are the games I sunk a considerable amount of time into. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to stick around for 2023. I'm really excited about this new year. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. I really appreciate it. See you guys in the next one, and bye-bye.